Welcome to the Mastercam 2022 rollout. My name is Patrick Philippek. I'm an application engineer for Prototech Engineering. And today we're going to talk about 3D enhancements. So you now have a new linking page along with multiple toolpath enhancements. The big one is going to be the linking page. So our linking page has been combined all into one page now. So everything is essentially the same with a few extra options. But what you'll notice, it's all in one page. It kind of looks busy, but it's not bad once you start using it. We now have apply leads is more enhanced. So as you can see by the picture there, when we apply them leads, that's that nice roll in and roll out. And now we can define if we want that on open passes or open and closed passes. So that's kind of a nice change there to give you a little bit more say on your 3D transitional moves. And then fit transitions. It's going to be kind of along the same principle here. It's just fitting that in depending on how much we are trimming for our trimming distance. So as you can see there, it kind of allows you to fit that transition in there with our transitional move. Maximum lift has been added. As you can see by the picture, once again, maximum lift is off. You get some weird transitional moves. As you can see, that purple one there kind of at an angle down. And with maximum lift on, you can tell it a distance, and it's going to retract up to that distance, over and straight down to be able to roll in. So you're not getting them really goofy transitional moves in between cuts. And 3D HST blend. So there's some big changes with high-speed blend. So we're going to take a look at this on a Mastercam file so I can kind of show you what they've changed and see if it can help you guys out. So on this little mold here we're going to go ahead and do a blend mill on this green section. And what a lot of people seem not to know is for your blend chains, you can actually pick a point and it'll spiral out from that point. So let's go ahead and we're going to go up and we're going to do a blend toolpath. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick all this geometry here. So the interior of this shape. Toolpath control, I'm just going to include a silhouette boundary. Nothing has really changed here. I'm going to go ahead and pick my guide curves as normal. So when we're working in here, you can pick a point. A lot of people don't know that you can pick a point here. So I have a point modeled on my part. I can go ahead and left click on there. And then I can go to my solid selection and I can pick a loop. So I can pick this upper loop that goes around that part. And I'm going to blend in between the two, which is essentially going to give me a spiral effect, if you would. I'll make sure I have my tool picked. And in here, I'm just going to go ahead and leave this to one way for now. I'm going to go ahead and go to 3D, it's the project. There's nothing really changed here. I'm just going to leave it this way. Steep shallow, we have no settings here, and we'll come back to this page. So let's go ahead and green check and see what result we get here. And as it's chugging along there, you can go up into the view menu and you can go to multi-threading. And multi-threading will kind of show you where it's at. If you ever get into a situation where you are calculating a tool path and it's just not going anywhere, maybe you made an error in the tool path, you got some number that shouldn't be in there and it's taking forever, you can stop the process in here with this stop button if you click on that that operation. So that is something to know if you are in a situation where it's just calculating for no reason. And that is found up into the view menu, and it's just called multi-threading up here. That one should be finishing up here pretty shortly. 82 percentage, 90s. And once that finishes, we'll take a look at the tool path and we'll see kind of what our pattern is like. And so I got kind of a decent pattern here. It's blending from the outside to that point. This wouldn't be a bad cut. And one thing that you will notice as it goes is that purple line in the middle. That's our transitional moves. Now, some people don't like them moves. Depending on your surface finish, sometimes a person has to come and polish them out of there by hand. So we have a few ways to get rid of that. And in Blend, there's one really nice option here that they added for 2022. So if we go back into the parameters of that cut, and if I go back into my cut parameters, they added the option for spiral. So if I go to spiral and regenerate this tool path, I'm going to notice that I no longer have transitional moves. And what it's going to act like is the same cut, but it's going to start at center and it's going to spiral out without doing any transitional moves to the next cut. So once again, we'll go to our multi-threading and see where we're at here. Looks like we're at about 60%. And you know what this will do for people is, like I said, your track on your part. 3D surface finishing sometimes can be very finicky if you're in the mold making business, where you can't have a transitional angled line that can't be in there that'll transition into the mold. So you know what we do is maybe we can go this route where we get smooth tool path motion with no retract and spiraling out along our shape with a nice blend tool path. The blend tool path has a lot of use in specifically a shape kind of like this, or really any oddball shape that you're trying to blend to. So it is a very good tool path to use, and they keep on enhancing it to make it even better. So, and we're almost there. And there's my cut. Just by turning it to spiral, now I'm going to have a one lead in on this part. It's just going to spiral out with no transitional move. That should be that much smoother of a finish, maybe less handwork to be doing on them parts. So just keep in mind the spiral option and try her out. Another cut we're going to do here is we are going to go ahead, and I'm going to change levels here. We're going to do an interrupted cut with blend on this one. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create another blend tool path, and I'm going to go ahead and select these surfaces here. And I'm going to include a silhouette boundary again, and my guide curves this time, I'm going to go ahead and go to wireframe. I'm going to go ahead and pick, not that one. I'm going to go ahead and pick that, and I'm going to go ahead and pick that. Same tool, and I'm going to go back to one way here just so we can see this. I'm going to flip this projection back to 2D. And I'm going to turn off optimize cut order. So I want to make sure you see that there. I turned that one off. So now if I go ahead and green check, let's see what result we get here. Since we kind of have a two-part here, we're going to see what we would probably expect is an awful lot of retract moves. So as it goes apart, it's going to go here, and it's going to skip across where it can see the blend, and it's back and forth. So you're wasting pretty much your whole day trying to machine this because you're traveling back and forth for really no reason. The fix for this previous was to just pick, you know, one side and do that in a tool path and one side on the other tool path, which then you're creating two tool paths. It's potential for two, you know, more error possibly somewhere down the line by you, and it shouldn't need to be that way. So if I come back into this cut, all I need to utilize here is the optimize cut order that's sitting right here. Once I optimize the cut order and go ahead and green check, and now we'll see what our result is on the same cut just by flipping that switch. So now you can see we eliminate all that extra travel through the center. And now it's going to stay in this region until it's done. and then move to the next by optimizing the cut order. So that can be quite a handy little tool there, especially in blend that we didn't have previous. We kind of limited out. Now they're really opening that up with options. So keep that in mind. Definitely check that out. Try to optimize your tool paths, and then try to remember that you can pick a point in blend. You don't have to pick chains. They can be a point. So check that out, and hopefully that can help your cause there. Next tool path we'll take a look at is going to be the Waterline. So the Waterline has seen a lot of changes in 2022. It really has kind of taken over as far as usability at this point. So what did we change? So Waterline's critical depths. So Waterline is a great tool path on steep walls, as we know. One limitation there was, depending on our depth cuts, if there was a flat there, it really didn't get closer, it was under that. So as you can see on the picture there, we had one or the other that we really couldn't control too well. So we usually had to come back and do some additional work there to clean them up. And this is a little bit more of a picture now. What we did is we added critical depths. So now as you can see in that left picture, I'll put a cut right to the top of that flat because we're going to tell it to in the tool path. And the picture on the right, you can see them additional cuts that it adds because that's where there are different Z levels on that part. So it ensures that there is a cut on all the flats, which is pretty darn cool and nice. We also have extensions. So now we have a Waterline extension, which is really cool. So on the left-hand side, you can see the extend is set to 0. So you can see your transition move in green and red. It's right on the part. There's no extension to the cut at all. And now there's an extension set to 5 millimeters on the picture next to that. So you can see the blue area is extended past 5 millimeters. This is really cool on the picture to the right. If you look at that, what that'll do is you can extend them cuts. And even though the floor ended, you can extend it, let's say, an inch, and it follows the profile of that solid out. So you're not going to gouge if you extend anything. It's model aware, so it just keeps on extending it around that geometry, as you can see in the pictures, which is really nice for blending. You know, as you can see in this part. I mean, if we take a look at this and specifically this location. Typically, I want to run my end mill pass, kind of like it's going there. I don't want to end there because I may have a witness mark there. But if I can go ahead and run that past like it's showing, then I have that much better of a chance of blending that wall out and not having any witness marks at all on there. We can manually set critical depths. So in this case here, what you're seeing on the picture is I manually set just that depth to go ahead and put a depth cut at. So what it does is it searches all of them depths out and goes and puts essentially like a contour cut around there. Now the only thing that we can't do is we can't apply comp. If we could apply comp, this tool path would really take over a lot of things. But as you can see, it is quite robust in the options that we'll see when we look at the part. And we'll go ahead and take a look at that part now and do some tool paths on it. One other thing that we're going to talk about in this part is we're going to talk about the transitions page. I said we would get to it earlier in the day here. The transitions page really has changed, and we're going to see what we can do with them transitions to possibly help out your machine. So here's my Waterline example part. There's a lot of features on this part, a lot of different flats. So let's go ahead and we're going to start with the transitions page. So we're going to do this green section in the middle, and we're going to take a look at some of the options we have. So I'm going to go start a new tool path here, and I'm going to go up to our 3D tool paths and go to Waterline. And in here, one change is a right-click menu in here. So you can select entities, unselect all, add remaining entities to a group. So if you have multiple groups in here, say you have 5, you could right click on them and then you could go and select additional ones, unselect them, or add all of them that are left. So that's a new option here. You can also cut groups, cut entities to also paste them. So keep that in mind. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick off a color here. So our masking on the right is still active and still available. So I'm just going to go pick the green. That's going to pick all of that. I'm also going to pick some avoidance here, and I'm going to use colors for that also. And that will be the brown color. And I'm going to go ahead and end selection. In here, I'm just going to leave this. I'm not going to set anything here right now. And our tool should be a, looks like a 5 millimeter end mill. Cut parameters. I'm just going to leave this to 1 way for now. And we're going to kind of see what we get, and then we can kind of alter stuff from there. As far as my step over, I'm just going to increase this to 1.2 millimeters. And I'm going to leave it just how it is here. Nothing else changed other than our linking parameters page. So take a look at that. So it looks very busy right off the hit here. But everything is the same that you're used to in this page. So it's important to note that. What you see here, there's nothing is really changing except for some added options. It's just all in one page. You don't have to flip through all these parameters to get to all this stuff. So your retract planes are sitting here. As far as your full vertical retract, your minimums and minimum distance, they're still here, just reordered. We'll talk about the arc fit radius. So I'm going to turn that off for now. And then your linear entry exit value is there. So if you're doing a linear entry move or exit move, what's the value of it? Keep tool down within has been moved out of the cut parameters page. It is now here. It still works the same. You have percentage of tool diameter or a distance. So once again, that's going to help you with the washing or sewing machine effect of where your tool is retracting and going back down all the time. That's depending on the gap in between cuts. The transitions, once again, if you're using the transitions to here your transitional ramp is, your ramp or your straight transition is, once again, it's nothing new. It's just reordered in this page here. There's some stuff here that they have added, so we'll come back and talk about that later. And then you have your leads. You have your horizontal, vertical, or none here. Now that was in the other page in 2021. They just put them in a drop-down menu now to go ahead and select from. And you can always give it a distance, an angle, or a radius, depending on what you're picking here. It'll be determined on that. You can have separate ones, and that opens up your lead out, so you can now give it different lead ins and different lead outs if you want. So there's a button there for that. And then secondary leads, it's additional leads into the cut. You have your lead in and your lead out value, kind of like we have above. And then you can give it a distance, an angle, or a radius if it applies. So right now I'm going to shrink this down maybe to 1 millimeter. And I'm going to turn off secondary leads. And then fitting. Your fitting settings are on the bottom here. You have minimize, machine entire pass, or fully trim the pass. Once again, if you are going to try to apply a radius out of the cut, to roll into the cut, roll out of the cut, fitting will allow you to do that. If you're not fitting, it'll work up to the wall and retract straight up in Z typically. So if you're seeing that, there's where your settings are. I'm just going to go ahead and green check, and I want to see what we get. So here we got a cut, and it's not a bad cut. It looks pretty good on the front end here. I got tiny little roll-ins here, which look okay. And now one thing I want you to notice, I am on 1 way, so you can see the transition up here is square. Some machines really do not like that. So what we can do is we can go and alter that. And in this page here, we can do an arc fit radius. So this is a new button here. And maybe I give it, no, I won't go that high. Let's go 8 millimeters on there. And I'm just going to green check and regenerate. Now look at the nice sweeping action we get on the transition back to the cut. Now you got a nice radius on top. Your machine is probably going to like that a lot better. You're not coming to a square point and then taking a 90-degree left or right in this case. So that there is a handy button if you are having issues, obviously with them transition moves. Your machine gets a little jerky, or you know, it just doesn't like it. Now maybe I want to alter these here. Maybe I don't want to come in straight along that wall, because you know that can be maybe gouging that wall a little bit. We can come back in here and now we can start messing with some of this stuff. So our leads, we can increase the radius. Maybe we go 10 millimeters. So let's go ahead and take a look at that and see what that does. So once again, I'm kind of coming in right here, straight along here, and I'm straight up there. So still added that big radius in there, but still not really probably what I'm looking for. So I'm going to actually decrease that down just a little bit. I'm going to go to 5. And go ahead and turn on secondary leads. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to make this 4 millimeters, and this is going to be vertical. So let's go ahead and see what we get here. We really didn't get to see much of a change there. So let's go ahead and make some other subtle changes here. Let's go to horizontal on this. So now we're coming in at a 90-degree angle. Let's go ahead and green check and see what it looks like now. So now that's what I'm more getting at. You know, now when we go and run this, now look at the nice cut we get here. So let me get it down to this section here. And now this is going to roll around that top. And I missed it there, so let me go back. And this is going to roll out. So now it's plunging out into air, and now it's doing a nice sweeping motion into the cut and out of the cut. So that is a very nice way to transition. That's one of the best things that I like, is the secondary move in there that I can create. And I create that at a 90-degree angle at a radius of 4 millimeters. I could also extend the length if I wanted. So that's one of the big uses of this transition page, is the secondary leads that you never had before. Quite handy in that situation, as we can see. So you kind of got to utilize this page, kind of test it out, see what you need out of it, because every surfacing situation is going to be a little different. And you know, that's what we're after. I did talk about maximum lift before. You know, we can give it a maximum lift. So if you are seeing some weird transition moves, maybe from a top of a flat to the bottom, that you don't like, your maximum lift is going to go to that distance, straight over and straight down into the transitional move. We don't see it on this part here, but that's where that is applied. And then you also have your apply leads. Open passes are open and closed. So if I go ahead and green check, we're not really going to see anything on this part either. It's just not a good position for this to work. If we're working up against a wall, then we would see a little bit of a rolling up and down, you know, as far as our leads go. And nothing else really changed here, except for down here, we do have linking arc tolerance. So that's the linking arc back. If it's doing a feed move in that linking move, you can filter that out to try to filter some of the splines out of that radius cut on the top. And one other thing you can do in here is you can move the screen in the background now that you never used to be able to do. So it'll be trying to filter this arc out up here to try to smooth it out a little bit for you. Otherwise, everything else in here is the same as you're used to for the linking. So let's go ahead and look at some critical depths now. And I'm just going to grab another Waterline toolpath here. And I'm going to go ahead and pick my whole model. And as far as this stuff goes, I'm not really going to mess with this right now. Just so you can kind of see what's happening here. And once I get in here, they did clean some of this up. So it's conventional, climb, spiral, and conventional spiral now. So instead of up mill, down mill, other way, backwards way, whatever they had in there. Them are no longer gone, and they cleaned that up for you a little bit. The critical depths down here is going to be the main one that changed. So you can turn critical depths on or off. If it's off, you just get regular waterline behavior. Otherwise, if you turn it on, you have a lot of options. You can include the flats. And what that's going to do is it's going to find all the flats in the part, and it's going to maintain a cut on them flats, kind of like we talked about in the screenshots earlier. Include contact flats. So inside of here, there's a few contact ones. There's include contact flats only, include manual contact and manual contact only. What a contact surface is like this pocket right here. Do you see how it's open on the end? It'll only apply a cut along what's touching a wall like that. That's considered a contact only. Otherwise, if you were not in a contact only, it's going to take that depth and go all the way around the part. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at some of these and see what the different behaviors. I'm just going to go manual only on the first one. So I'm going to go and I'm going to go pick points. I'm going to say I want a cut just at that depth and maybe this depth here too. So if I end selection, I'm just going to go ahead and green check and see what we get here. And as you can see, that's kind of cool. It manually put a cut around the whole part at them different depths that I picked. So this is kind of like a contour pass almost to kind of finish this out. So it finds where these are, and it runs it around this whole thing. Now it does each one at that depth. So, you know, there's any geometry at that depth that you picked, it's going to run it all the way around, as you can see there. So that one might have a little bit of, you know, it's going to be part specific on where you're actually going to be utilizing that. So let's go ahead and we're just going to bump around in some of these options here. So manual contact only now, and now you have the extend option with that one. I'm just going to zero that out for right now. Let's go ahead and regenerate this. So now you're seeing that I'm not necessarily getting a cut all the way around on all them depth cuts. It's just where it's contacting. Now this is a transition move back. So now you can see the change there a little bit is mainly just where it's contacting. So it works its way around, goes to the next one, contact, contact. So that's the difference between contact and no contact, is where it's contacting, it's going to grab them. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to manual contact only. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick that point there and that point there. I don't think this one picked. There we go. And I'm just going to leave it the way it is. So I just want to put a cut at that depth. And that's exactly what I got. There was some other geometry over here that is the same depth. So what I did is I came over here and I started right there, no extension. So it's leading in right there against this wall right here. Now, the nice thing about this is I can come into the parameters and I can give it an extension. Now I'm going to give it, you know, kind of a big extension so we can see it. I'm going to give it 15 millimeters here. And that's going to regenerate. And you can see how it extended that out 15 millimeters. So I'm even going to go more, just so you can see kind of how this processes. I'm just going to go 38 millimeters. And now you see how it follows the contour around there and it starts to go around the corners. That's how it works. It's an anti-gouge, so it sees the model, it knows that it shouldn't be cutting into there, and it just continues past like that, which is pretty darn cool and pretty handy. You know, if you just have to come and clean these up, maybe you're going to match that ball end mill. Maybe you just come along here and do these, or this style of cut, and it's going to run it along there to clean all of that up. You know, include flats. Once we start, you know, including just the flats, now, you know, we lose our extension ability, and now we're going to, you know, put pretty big cuts in there. So I'm going to give this a little bit bigger number just so we can see it a little quicker, so it processes. And this is going to process the whole darn thing. So we said process the model, include the flats. And now you'll see that we have a cut on all of these flats. There's a cut there, and there's our cut here. We also have cuts along here. Can't see it, it's blended in that black line, but there it is. So there's another option, you know, of what you would want there. And it pretty much cut around all of this stuff here, including the flats. And the other ones, you know, are going to work kind of like we talked about. Are they contact flats or are they just flats? All flats are pretty much include flats. We could do flats only. That's going to give us, you know, a little bit different look here. Not quite as much, but it went and just put depth cuts at every one of these flats. So it still ran it around there. See how this one goes around, continues around. This one here must be another depth here somewhere on this part, and that's why you're getting a trace around there too, which is kind of cool. If you've got flute link, that'll kind of finish that part off for you, kind of a nice way. So keep these options in mind. I'm not going to go through all of them, but that's basically how this is working here with critical depths. Is you're just kind of telling it where to cut along. Like I said, the only thing is if they could add cutter comp on them finish passes, that would be pretty much a one-hit wonder there. So that would be pretty crazy if you could do that. Other options that change here, this is the same page, big time on your linking parameter page. Arc filters, all the same, so there's really no other changes in here other than the big one, that's critical depths here. So keep that in mind. If I turn that off, you get a typical waterline result that you would have. Depending on our depth cuts, this is where the problem comes into play. See where that cut is right there? It's above that floor. It's not even near, and then the next depth cut's below it. So you would have a lot of material that you might not clean up on that face there potentially. So that was the downfall. Now they got it fixed. So definitely take a peek at that one. That's well worth it. And there hasn't really been any other changes in these other tool paths to really talk about. So Waterline and Blend were the big hitters here in 3D. And just a couple other things to discuss here before we're done. Equal Scallop did have one change. Remove small segments. It's an arc filter tolerance. It's an advanced option, and it's called remove small segments. So it kind of looks at how big the segment is, and if it's within them boundaries you set, it will refine it so you don't get them really strange transitional moves. As you can see, not using remove small segments, you get that purple line, and then remove small segments, it's a lot better transition back. So keep that one in mind for Equal Scallop. That's really the only change in Equal Scallop. And then we did add the ability to copy geometry, so I can show you that, and it's going to kind of work like a tool path. So we'll go ahead and take a look at my file here again. So what you can do here is, if you have the geometry, if you right click on it and drag it just like a tool path, you'll get that little phantom geometry block. I can drop it and I can say add geometry, and stock to leave values, replace geometry and stock to leave values, replace geometry for all the selected operations, and replace geometry and stock to leave values for all selected operations. So it allows you to kind of copy some of the geometry around if you're going to utilize different tool paths, or if you want that geometry added. So maybe it'll help you, maybe it won't. It's kind of like copying a tool path, but now you just have to copy your geometry if you want. So keep that in mind. That is